applicant for school committee. Rocky, can you hear me?
Here.
You're muted. Okay. With that, I think we have a couple of additional announcements this evening that we'll add under the announcements category. And with the length of our agenda, it's been requested that I just move up the committee appointments to before the town manager's report. I would say we should include in that the school committee vacancy. So we'll move item 1 and 2 under select board comments right before we go into the town manager reports. If everyone's okay with that, then we can begin the agenda. Libby, I'll turn announcements over to you.
Thank you. So first off, we've already announced this meeting is being video and audio recorded. We would like to introduce our new Our Island Home Administrator, Chris Roberts. Chris, I lost track of you, but are you on the phone?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry, what was that?
We were just introducing you.
Oh,
so Chris is on the phone. You can't see him, but he is the new Our Island Home Administrator. And Chris, maybe you could just give a very brief summary, like kind of what you did at Cabinet yesterday.
Oh, sure. So yeah, I have been an administrator of record for various skilled nursing facilities since 2010. Most recently, I oversaw 3 facilities, 1 in New York and 2 in Massachusetts. And then I actually worked for Eisenstein and Flaherty, the consulting company that actually provided infection control consulting during COVID to Our Island Home. And that's actually how I got, introduced. Very excited to be here. I did my original internship many years ago in a large nonprofit called Masonic Care Community up in Utica, New York, where I'm from originally. And then unfortunately from there, I had been in the for-profit world just based on job demand, and very, very excited to be back in nonprofit where my heart's kind of always been, and where I think the best care is actually provided because you're not worried about, trying to profit off of other people.
Chris,
so very excited to be here.
Thank you so much, Chris. And to clarify, Chris is not related to Linda Roberts.
Correct. I've been asked that a few times already.
Thank you, Chris, very much. We appreciate your coming on. Next, we have recognition of retiring Deputy Fire Chief Robert Bates with 32 years of service to the town. I think Chief Murphy is going to say a few words. And Bob, I just wanted to recognize you as well for your dedication for such a long period of time. 32 years is quite a career. We will be presenting you with a plaque. I'll show you everybody what it looks like. Obviously, we can't give it to you right this moment, but it will look, you can't see it too well, but anyway, that's what it looks like. And we will give you that in person very soon. Chief Murphy.
Thank you, Libby, and thank you, Madam Chair. Just to recognize Deputy Bates, and it's 32 years with the town, but he has over 35 years in the fire service. He started with our Nantucket Fire Department back in October of 1989. He served as the fire alarm superintendent, where he oversaw a big project in dismantling and decommissioning the fire alarm system for the town and all the open air wires. In fall of 2018, he was promoted to deputy chief, where he's been critical in helping me run the department. One of the special things about Bob is throughout his career, he's always been somebody you could count on. From the time he started showing up on EMS calls as the third EMT, knowing you had help coming, and really finish his career carrying the ALS program, which we'll talk about, through the finish line, helping me with policies and licensing and drawing up everything to make sure that we get to where we need to be. One of the most important traits for the fire service and for a firefighter is to be dependable. And Bob is that in a firefighter. And Deputy Bates made the fire department better, and he's going to be missed.
We're clapping, Bob.
Thank you, Bob.
Do you want to say something?
If I may, my time with the town has been incredible. It's been the majority of my life here. Literally, I've worked for the town for longer than I did anything else in my life. I'm 54 years old now. I've been working for the town for 32 years. It's since I was 22 years old. Working through the department with the people that I started with, through the people that we have now. Everyone has always been incredible to work with. We have such a strong group of personnel that are there now. They will carry this department forward as things progress. I look forward to having some time off and doing lots of things around the house to get them completed. Appreciate your time tonight.
We'll certainly see you around the island. And thank you again. I'll get out to the station very shortly. Well, I guess it will have to be very, very shortly to get you the plaque. Chief Murphy has another very great announcement to make on the next item. The fire department will start providing limited advanced life support ambulance service on Monday, June 28th with the 8 a.m. shift. Chief is going to review this, and I also want to commend the chief on his efforts and leadership to get this program underway. He and I spoke about this program at least 20 years ago, before he was the chief or the deputy. And I don't really even know how to convey how appreciative town administration is and the town, Steve. And I know this was a massive effort, more than anybody can possibly imagine. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Libby. It is a big deal. And, it's the department that's put this together, from the people who took the paramedic class, devoted a year of their life to obtaining a certification to help others. And as well as, like I said, the deputy who for the past year has involved most of his time in taking and carrying this forward to the finish. What we're going to be providing now is advanced level care in the back of the ambulance or in somebody's living room. The first couple minutes that you'd have in the ER, whether it is in a cardiac arrest or pain management from a broken bone or treatment because you feel sick to your stomach, we'll be able to make people more comfortable, provide better care, and treat everything much earlier, which always provides a better outcome for our patients and our clients that we transport on the ambulance. This is a big deal. We were one of the last in the Commonwealth of our size department to get there. And our paramedics that we have currently right now are going to do a tremendous job. And thank you to everybody in town administration, finance department, all through the town and the hospital for helping us get to where we are, because this was not me. This was a lot of people involvement in making sure that this could be done. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Chief. David Gray, Sewer Director. I see what you mean, Don, about trying to find people on here. Oh, David, there you are. Brief update about the Surfside Sewer Project, please.
Good evening, everyone. Well, I'm happy to report that tonight will be the last night for night work on Surfside Road. They are currently now installing the water service to the pump station down by the Dyer's property, and then we'll be moving back up towards First Wave for a few hours tonight to run a few more sticks of pipe, prepping, and then tomorrow will be the last day of paving for the project until sometime later this fall, after Columbus Day, of course. They will be demobilizing most of their equipment, but the rest of the crew will be moving on to the pump station lot across from the current pump station and starting the construction there going forward until that's completed. So tonight's the last night for night work, and a lot of the signs and everything should be disappearing tomorrow.
Thanks very much, David. I appreciate your keeping on top of it, and we're very relieved that the night work is ending tonight. That's great. Moving on with the announcements, there is no select board meeting next week, June 30th. Your next meeting will be Wednesday, July 7th. Next, the select board facilities master plan workshop for Thursday, July 8th. We realized this afternoon that actually that is not a date that is going to work. So sorry about this. We've rescheduled it a couple of times now, but we're going to reschedule it again, hopefully for August. And we'll get you all a couple of dates to pick from very shortly. And we have two additional announcements. The Housing Director, Tucker Holland, has an announcement. Tucker?
Thank you very much, Libby and Madam Chair. Uncharacteristically, I've written down my remarks. I am very pleased to be able to announce that we recently received official word from the Department of Housing and Community Development that they have certified anew our housing production plan, and therefore Nantucket has achieved a new one-year period of safe harbor. This is based upon recent progress, specifically the contributions of the projects at 31 Fairgrounds Road and Benjamin Drive. The Affordable Housing Trust has been pleased to work in collaboration with Housing Nantucket and Habitat for Humanity to add 25 units to our subsidized housing inventory. In just the last 3 years, Nantucket has gone from less than 2% of our year-round housing stock being affordable to now over 5.5%, or 273 residences being eligible to be listed on our SHI. DHCD certified our housing production plan as of June 11th, 2 days prior to the expiration of our prior period. This was in line with the plan we had developed and implemented over the course of the past 2 years. Given the myriad parts and players and the critical timing involved, this was no small achievement. Without spending the next hour going through in excruciating detail, the best way I can think to describe it is to say it is very much like landing a big plane on a short runway. There are a number of folks who deserve recognition for reaching this milestone. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the voters and community of Nantucket for entrusting over $25 million in 2019 to the trust and me to meet the intent of the Neighborhood First warrant article to keep our community in safe harbor, and to at the same time spend these taxpayer dollars wisely and efficiently to produce housing. I'd like to thank the Select Board for making housing the #1 priority in their strategic plan and taking subsequent actions to demonstrate their resolve. In the same vein, I'd like to thank the Town Manager and Finance Director for committing to an annual budget of $2 million to fund the Housing Office this year and going forward. I'd also like to thank the Finance Committee for unanimously supporting this year's housing funding recommendations by town administration. Specifically regarding Safe Harbor, I'd like to thank Tobias Glidden and Rick Atherton for reaching out with their Neighborhood First funding concept and for us working together to shape it to ultimately gain town meetings approval. I'd like to thank the Neighborhood First Advisory Committee for the key role they played in developing the strategy to deploy these funds in a manner designed to meet myriad aims. I'd like to thank Alana Murphy, Rieko Hayashi, Margot Leclerc, and Phil DiMartino at DHCD, who have provided invaluable guidance and support for our housing efforts here on Nantucket. As the board knows, we were pleased to be able to host Alana and Rieko here on island in May. I'd like to thank Habitat for Humanity for working diligently over the past couple of years to refine their program so that all homes they create going forward will count on our subsidized housing inventory. They now have their first 3 on the list. I'd like to thank Housing Nantucket and Billy Cassidy for collaborating on what we believe will be a model project at 31 Fairgrounds Road. I'd also like to thank the Richmond Development Group, which not only provided the majority of units that enabled the last 2 years of Safe Harbor, yet which is now accelerating production of 24 rental units in a collaboration with the trust that will provide greater affordability and access to housing sooner, in addition to providing a second year of certification to the new Safe Harbor period we just entered. I'd like to thank Andrew Vorse and Leslie Snell for recognizing long ago the need for greater resources and personnel to address this existential issue for the year-round community. I'd like to thank Tom and Kate and TNP for quite literally putting the housing issue center stage 5 years ago at the Nantucket project. I'd like to thank Town Council's office, where they not only employ attorneys, but also superheroes, as I have noted before. Attorney Marsh's tireless work on multiple transactions not only contributed vastly to the current period of safe harbor, but helped lay the groundwork for future periods to come. As well, I'd like to thank the Planning Board, Historic District Commission, and Zoning Board of Appeals for thoughtfully and expeditiously reviewing these projects that contribute so importantly, not only to safe harbor, but at the end of the day, to providing housing for members of our year-round community, which is really what it is all about. I'd like to thank Erica Mooney, Florencia Rio, and Katie Cabral, without whose support this work would not have been possible. Lastly, but far from least, I would like to thank the members of the Affordable Housing Trust, along with Ken Bogrand and Eleanor Antonetti. Nantucket is indeed lucky to have the intelligence, thoughtfulness, caring, creativity, commitment, and engagement that are the hallmarks of every member of the trust, and Ken and Eleanor. I might take the liberty to give special recognition to the trust chair and vice chair, who are true leaders on this issue. All of these folks I have mentioned do what many might call thankless work. Given the significance of reaching this milestone, I simply thought it appropriate to take a moment and express my gratitude to every one of you. In closing, I'll just say, I do indeed love it when a plan comes together, and you did it, Nantucket. There are still miles to go, as Robert Frost might say, before we sleep. Yet the trust and I want to thank you for your steady and continued support for addressing the year-round housing need. Your approval of nearly $17 million in funding at the recent town meeting will allow us to continue this important work. There is indeed more to come. Thank you, Madam Chair and Libby.
Thank you very much, Tucker.
Thank you.
One additional item is the Public Works Director has an announcement about an unfortunate upcoming project that must occur next week, I believe, Rob, involving a utility pole at the Rotary.
Thank you, Libby. So National Grid has reached out to us, I believe it was early June. There was a broken pole along their main line at the corner of Milestone and Old South Road. The broken pole services, it carries 3 separate circuits that support the island's electrical infrastructure, along with, I believe, 4 other carriers, Verizon, Comcast, and some other private utilities. The company, National Grid, took immediate action and installed a utility pole, a brand new utility pole adjacent to the broken one, to brace it, to shore it up so it would not eminently fail. From that particular location, I understand that essentially the east side of the island from the Rotary east is powered. So catastrophic failure at this location would be exactly that, catastrophic. Grid has been awaiting and dealing with some supply chain issues, and they now have secured the Class 2 pole that's ultimately scheduled to go into this location. Right now, they are scheduled for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday next week, including some off-island assistance with other N-Grid personnel. It's expected that while they will be outside of the vehicular roadway area, they will affect bike path traffic, and they've been asked to submit a traffic management plan to address that, to ensure that we have safe passage along with police details, making sure that bike path traffic will be able to continue through that area, which is the highest volume of bike traffic on the island. In addition to the initial work that National Grid will perform, and it certainly is weather permitting, and there's a lot of technical aspects to it that could push it into the second week of July. It's then expected, once that happens, that all the other lower utilities need to transfer their equipment over to the new pole before Grid can come back and ultimately remove the old poles from that area. It is expected that they will be, these activities will be highly disruptive to the newly completed Milestone Bike Park, which is unfortunate. However, it's a reality of this level of emergency. And Grid has committed to restoring that area at their earliest convenience once the project has been completed. So that's it for now.
Thanks, Rob. I think, and you'll work with Florencia to get some public outreach out on that, right?
Correct.
Great, thank you. I think that's it for announcements.
Matt,
Just a
hold
quick
on,
question.
Matt has a question.
Yeah, just Rob, there's no way they can keep it as is until fall? Like you've talked with them and it's imminent, it's gonna fall down unless they do it?
Matt, my understanding is that they're not willing to risk the likelihood of a potential failure. There's a tremendous amount of weight on that, and I believe I think there's only 8 circuits on the island, and this pole carries 3 of them. So it's a really, really important location. Whether or not the other utilities might be able to wait to do the transfers until later, that's a different discussion. But I think securing, from what I understand from speaking with our National Grid representatives, this is really the highest priority for them.
Again, and you bring up a good point. Usually National Grid will get their work done and then we wait forever for everybody else. It would be great if this was all coordinated so when so we can reseed and fix that area once. Then, hopefully we won't have to wait. I'm making a plea to any of them might be listening or here. Hopefully we won't have to wait, months or years to have the others moved over and do this thing 3 times.
Christy?
Thanks. Before we moved on, I just wanted to take a minute and thank Tucker. It's really exciting that we're in safe harbor, and he went through a long list of thanking others, but didn't recognize himself and all the work he's done to get us here. And it really is no small feat that we made it to safe harbor, exactly lining up with the expiration of our current state. So thank you, Tucker.
Thank you, Christy. Totally agree. It's very exciting to see this all come to fruition. Continue the good work. Next up on the agenda, we have follow-up from the Select Board public comment on the catch basin cleaning.
So just to introduce it, I guess, there were some public comments about catch basin cleaning at your meeting on June 9th. And I think we noted at that meeting, that may have been the first meeting where we're trying out this sort of new category on the agenda for public comment or select board follow-ups. And I think the Public Works Director is prepared to address the comments that were made on June 9th.
Thank you, Libby. Thank you, Madam Chair. So I've reviewed Mr. Barrett's comments from the 9th, and I guess catch basin cleaning maybe is not the best term to summarize that. It's more about catch basin adjustments and corrections, and it went further into storm drain repairs and sunken trenches, road permits, and ultimately some road repairs. Clearly, the voters have spoken and are supportive of lots of capital road repairs. And so a lot of those projects have been progressing through the design stage. Just wanted to clarify some of the facts that were being thrown around during that session on the 9th, to just correct the record and maybe educate some of you who may not be familiar with the programs. In fiscal 21, so far, DPW has processed 526 permits. Those include road opening permits, blocking permits, driveway curb cut permits, dewatering permits, and over the road permits, which obviously involve house moves. Of those, we provide support from our office, particularly moving roadway signs and sometimes lights and such during the over the road moves. And we do inspectional work associated with the roadway openings and dewatering permits. And certainly the driveway curb cuts, we involve outside engineering to do inspectional work, and those reports come back to us. Ultimately, the folks doing the work get signed off, and the work is warranted for a period before we ultimately own it as a town, take on any kind of maintenance issues that occur from there. DPW currently licenses roadway opening contractors to ensure consistency and completeness of the work that's performed under these permits. Currently, and as the history has shown here, the permits are issued by the town, both at DPW, town administration, and other departments for free. The contractors pay zero. The homeowners that benefit pay zero. So there is currently no permit fee at all. This is all done within DPW budgets. Support of these efforts are all through the budgets. So there are no funds that are received that would go into the recently created roadway revolving fund. The roadway revolving fund was created so that various future funding sources could be from permit fees, could be from other sources, could be amalgamated into doing future repairs to roadways. The recent work that was done at Milestone, the catch basin sunk hole that had opened up near a recently, not recently constructed, recently repaired or upgraded catch basin that was done during a Mass DOT state project was recently repaired. I think it was done the next day after that meeting. And that was something that was noticed, was called in. DPW contacted the state and then contacted the contractor involved, and they mobilized to handle that. Beyond that, we have various contracts with a varied number of contractors to address all kinds of issues that arise during the year, both issues that are planned for and issues that arise by surprise. What we have noticed through the years is lots and lots of materials that have wasted away, materials that had no business being installed initially, corrugated metal pipe that's long since corroded away and is providing no service any further. So damaged pipes and all kinds of, just a litany of things. We're prioritizing these regularly through our work order system, and we have repaired all kinds of catch basins around the town. We have really put a focus on drainage improvements with the backing of both capital funding and general funds. We've been really taking a strong approach in improving drainage around the town in small ways and in big ways. So We've also just recently gotten approval with a new budget for a actual construction inspector that would be on our staff and would be expected to work together with our deputy director for operations, who manages the permit program here, to go around town and do more boots on the ground field inspections of active contractors. We still find numerous activities that are happening without permits, some that are noticed, some that are called in, and we follow up on each and every one of them. So I really just wanted to give a overview of where we are. I'd let Mr. Barada know that certainly we could take a look at individual locations. We have numerous locations under design or permitting currently, and we expect, based on the infrastructure that we have here, there's going to be years and years of reinvestment, replacement, upgrading, and improvements. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have our COVID-19 weekly update.
Can I make a quick comment before we get to that?
Yes, Matt, go ahead.
I'll make a quick one. Whenever we do license and fees and we increase on everyone, we always talk about, I always talk about having to broaden that. And I hope, Rob, that we look at, charging fees. I don't think the impact and the amount that's done with a lot of those is something that we could be charging for and should be charging for. So I hope that's in the mix when we do that. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I'm sorry, I also just wanted to make one little addition to this category of follow-up on select board and public comment. At the June 9th meeting, Mr. Fee also had requested, I didn't realize this till I looked closer at it today. Matt, you had requested a board discussion about outdoor dining, and we have put that on the meeting schedule for July 21st.
Great, thank you.
Okay, if there are no opening public comments in regard to COVID-19, I am going to turn it over to Roberto Santamaria, our Public Health Director.
Thank you, Don. I think more than anything, it's pretty exciting to be at this point. We didn't really do a COVID update since the lifting of the emergency order. So for lack of a better way, according to the governor, we made it. So as we move forward, we are continuing with the vaccination program. The hospital is no longer doing any of the COVID-19 vaccines. The town has taken it over completely. Since we took it over about halfway through, early on through June, we have given 484 fully vaccinated people, which is great. A big portion of that, about half of that were students, people's ages 12 to 18. So that's actually really impressive. So thank you, Beth, Dr. Hallett, for having the clinics at the schools. And then we've been actually having the clinics at the Saltmarsh Center. Today is the last clinic at the Saltmarsh Center. We are moving, thank you again to Dr. Hallett, we are moving to the First Way parking lot and behind the school administration building. So when you turn onto First Way, it'll be that first parking lot on the right. We will be able to stack cars there. You will see a little canopy that we have set up, or you'll see our nurses set up there. And you should be able to do walk-in vaccines there. We've been getting a surprising amount of demand still. We are, for every clinic that we're doing, we're vaccinating about 65 to 70 people each clinic. So we still are doing very well. There's still a lot of things out there. And we are still doing on-location vaccination too. So if you have a business and you want to have your employees vaccinated, please let us know. We are going out there and doing clinics as well. We are moving all the clinics to the school location, and we are going to be moving clinics on Sunday as well. Not July 4th, that'll be July 3rd, but we will be doing clinics on the weekends to pick up the those who can't really get the time off during the week as well. And with that, the BioBot sewer reports are still showing less than one case, which is great. All our testing has still shown 0%, 0 cases. That is still by appointment at the hospital. And I believe that is it.
Does anybody have any questions or comments? I'd just like to say it's just amazing how kind of quickly we've shifted. Melissa?
Thanks, Dawn. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Roberto, for folks who need to or feel that they need to be tested either for travel requirements or because they feel unwell, can you remind us about what some of those options are and where the appointed resources for people to find that? Thank you.
So for Dawn as well, you know, it does feel very fast. But what that tells us is the vaccine works. It's really working. It's really working. It's unbelievable how well it's working. The Delta variant is out there, but the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine and the Janssen vaccine are still showing good response to the Delta variant. Even though there are some breakthrough, we will see breakthrough. No vaccine is 100%. That includes measles, mumps, rubella, Tdap, polio, etc. No vaccine is ever 100%. So there will be some breakthrough cases, but it is working. So that's been really great. If you are feeling symptomatic or if you need testing for traveling or things like that, if wherever you're going accepts antigen testing, they are doing antigen testing at Dance Pharmacy and AC Dental Arts. If you need PCR testing, AC Dental Art as well, Dr. Pavi is doing a PCR test with same day turnaround. So they will be able to get your results that same day. And then you can also make an appointment at the hospital.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? If not, we'll just, Roberto, go ahead.
One quick last one for you five and Libby as well. This last 18 months wouldn't have been possible without the support of the select board and a boss like Libby. Honestly, I was talking with a colleague from another town in Melrose and Wakefield yesterday. Ruth Clay retired recently, and one of the things that she was saying is that it's really tough when a town manager, mayor, city administrators, things like that just don't give you the reins. When the leaders don't know what they do not know, and they're not willing to listen, and it was catastrophic in many cities across the country. So I wanted to say personally, now that we've lifted the state of emergency and the proof is in the pudding here, with the 0 cases for almost 4 weeks now almost, couldn't have done it without you guys, without you 6 here. So thank you.
Well, we certainly couldn't have done it without you. And it's been a tremendous period of time for everyone.
Yeah, and it's over.
Hopefully. Brooke Moore actually has a comment, so I'd like to recognize Brooke.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Roberto took the words out of my mouth. The collaborative effort of the community through this crisis has been remarkable, and I wanted to comment on that. And Roberto, I just had one question, just so people know what to expect. The testing that's available now is no longer free. Am I correct?
Correct. Yes. The testing at the hospital, I think it's charged to insurance. I'll have to confirm that. And if you don't have insurance, I think it gets charged to Mass Health. And I believe the AC Dental Arts is, I think, charging, and I believe Dan is charging, but I don't know what the costs are. But yes.
Okay.
very
I just,
in that
yeah, I just wanted to make sure people listening knew that it's not the way it was when we had state-funded testing.
correct.
Thank you. It's a good point. If there's nothing else on COVID-19, we'll move on to public comments for items not otherwise on the agenda for discussion. Brooke, your hand is still up, but I'm assuming that it just hasn't come down yet. Unless, okay. I don't see any hands raised, so there's no new business that I'm aware of. Approval of minutes, warrants, and pending contracts. Can we take them all together unless anyone has a change or a question?
Before we do it, I have a quick question on the beach concession feasibility study. What is that going to entail? It's 137,000.
Libby, did you want to go over that?
Yep, and I can certainly send the scope of services around, but in a nutshell, there is a kickoff meeting with, there would be a kickoff meeting and then data gathering and field work, which is pretty comprehensive. Just as a little bit of an example, compile and review all available data, maps, plans, diagrams, leases, studies, topographic detail, property line survey, wetlands delineation, as-built building drawings, detailed architectural, structural, MEP investigation of jetties building to establish suitability for moving to a new location or raising in place and adaptive reuse, develop matrix of pros and cons for relocating, raising, et cetera, based on current sea level rise projections, historic review, review and implement National Park Service guidelines, create suitable base mapping for conceptual designs and environmental and human receptors mapping in GIS, handicapped accessibility challenges, identify grant funding opportunities. That's just the data gathering section. There's a public engagement section, which will be a townwide survey organized in 4 parts: general, children's, jetties, and Surfside specifically. Meet with concessionaires, meet with key constituent groups associated with each property, host public workshops, an island-wide one, and then individually for each beach property. Develop, and then a third category is to develop conceptual designs, buildings, site and utilities, conceptual cost estimates for developed schemes, identify preferred schemes for the select board and public comments. 4th category relates to climate resiliency, and there are numerous tasks associated with that. Won't read every single one of them. Permitting is a 5th category to review applicable local, state, and federal regulations. A 6th category is a written feasibility study and report, which summarizes all of the work described herein with findings and recommendations and implementation strategy, with funding and a timeline. And that is, there's also a chart that breaks down all of these tasks into dollar amounts that add up to $137,200. And I'm happy to send this around.
Jason? And then Christy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to know more, just a little more about maybe from Roberto or Libby, maybe he's gone, from the grant that we received for 300Ks. Do we normally get that each year? Is this new? It seems like a pretty nice sized grant.
It is a very nice grant. So in collaborations with the Mass Association of Health Boards and the 6 communities in Martha's Vineyard, we received the Public Health Excellence Grant. And with that, it's a little bit over $300,000 a year for 3 years. And that will be funding through Island Health Services and Martha's Vineyard. They will be nesting a food auditor that when I say a food auditor, with that, it's an inspectional thing for the FDA standardization. So that the food auditor will make sure that restaurants on both islands doing random inspections will make sure that we're meeting the FDA standards. It's more of an audit of the health department rather than an audit of the restaurant. And then there is going to be a biologist to study tick-borne and other vector-borne diseases, doing tick drags, things like that, and a behavioral health specialist who will be looking at data, quantifying data on mental health, substance abuse issues, across both islands and being able to get us a report on that. And they should be able to do a yearly report. So it's I don't think Nantucket has received a grant like this in a long time. I think the last one was the 10-year grant that funded ASAP. I think that was the last big grant that we've received like that.
Christy?
Thank you. Libby, I was just wondering if you could touch on the license agreement for 40th Pole. It mentions public beach access. Is that just for fishing, fouling, and navigation, or what type of public access is that?
That allows people to access a certain section of privately owned beach at the area known as 40th Pole. People are allowed to drive there, although there is also a conservation restriction held by the land bank over that property. And I know that there has been I guess I'll just mention this because it's probably going to come up at some point. There were a lot of people out there over the last weekend, and there were probably some complaints about people not being able to get on the beach. And it's going to be difficult to get onto that beach area this summer because it's very, very popular. It's a limited area. We currently have endangered species issues out there, which limits the access. And there is a section of this privately owned area that is not accessible to the public. The property owner, it does allow that, but it is for beach going and picnicking and sitting and driving your car there. So that's good, but it is a limited area.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? And if not, could we go through to a vote on items 1 through 4? Matt?
Yeah, quick comment. Yeah, just for Christy, that license, the other option when that was negotiated was closure to the, sort of the, closure as much as he could close it, and a big battle. So, what was worked out, it was very, it was a very positive situation from a bad situation as it started. And I think there are some areas where cars can't park, but the public kind of lost their, sort of ability to do that when they didn't respect sort of that beach in that area. And so that, sort of, I think it's, it's incumbent on the people who go there to, treat all of these beaches and all of these areas with respect, or we're going to have more losses of access. It's great. There is, it's not just fishing, fouling, and navigation. It's close, it's close to what happens everywhere else. So, people that are listening and anyone that has any influence, make sure that people are respectful and they don't take signs down, and they don't ruin what is sort of a good thing now.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think part of the problem that's going on right now is that there's a section of the beach out there that is between the 40th Pole access and the Eel Point access, where you cannot drive. And the Eel Point access, I believe, is closed because of nesting. And so that has created a backup because there's an entire section of beach that can't be accessed by vehicle at this time. I mean, that will change, but it will probably be an ongoing issue for a number of weeks. With that, could we have a motion?
Move approval.
Items 1 through 4. All those in favor by roll call: Melissa Murphy.
Aye.
Jason Bridges.
Aye.
Matt Fee.
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella.
Aye.
John Holgate, aye. That carries unanimously. On the consent agenda, we have a couple of gift acceptances. Could I have a motion to accept those and send letters of thanks?
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor by roll call: Melissa Murphy.
Aye.
Jason Bridges.
Aye.
Matt Fee.
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella.
Aye.
John Holgate, aye. That carries unanimously. And I believe Sarah Powers is here. We would love to thank you for your generous gift. I didn't know if you wanted to, if you want to say something, just unmute.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Thank you, Dawn. I really want to say thank you to Rob McNeil and to Jason Bridges, who have been with me on this voyage of donating money to create a bench and a rest place along the Nantucket bike path for the past year. And some money was raised, and our family has donated some in honor of my partner, Jeffrey, who loves to bike on Nantucket. And it has started, we're raising even more money, and we hope to, our family will contribute to bike paths, and we hope with Jason's guidance to start a fund for the maintenance of Nantucket bike paths in perpetuity and beautifying them for everyone's enjoyment. And thank you all. Rob is awesome, and Jason, and everything all of you selectmen do for Nantucket. As a resident, I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Sarah. Look forward to the future. Next up on the agenda, we have citizen departmental requests. Finance Department request for approval of the sale of bond anticipation notes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So last week we sold $13.3 million of bond anticipation notes, which is yearly during June. We sell some to finance the projects that we've undertaken. As you can see on the screen in the AIS, there was two series. The first series, which was Series A, was made up of $10.55 million. It was made up of various water projects. Majority of it was sewer projects, some airport projects, and general fund projects, including sidewalks and other various projects within the town. Series B was made up of $750,000 of general fund projects and $2 million of airport projects. We split this into two series because most of Series A most likely will be permanently borrowed when we go back to market in November. Series B is the PFAS series, which we most likely will continue to issue bans for a period of time for that. So that's why there were two series. The first Series A had 4 bidders, with TD Securities being the low bidder with a coupon rate of 1.5% and the net interest cost of 0.2040%. Series B actually generated 2 bids, with Oppenheimer and Company being the low bidder with a coupon rate of 1.25 and a net interest cost of 0.2898. There is budgetary impact when these notes mature of $76,593. And we would ask when Erica puts the vote up for a favorable vote to be able to finalize the sale of and issue the bonds and close on the sale.
If everyone's comfortable, could we have a motion referencing the vote in the packet and as projected?
Move approval, referencing the packet as projected.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor by roll call: Melissa Murphy,
Aye.
Jason Bridges,
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella,
Aye.
Matt Fay,
Aye.
Don Holgate, aye. That carries unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. Next up, we have real estate items. I'll turn this over to Ken Bogrand to take us through it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before I start, I just wanted to clarify situation with respect to my role in this particular transaction. As some of you may be aware, my real estate broker's license is with Atlantic East Nantucket Real Estate. And as a result, I talked to town council about the most appropriate action for me to take with respect to this. I indicated to him that I have no financial interest in Atlantic East and that Heidi is a principal of Atlantic East, but more importantly, Atlantic East has no financial interest or ownership interest in the issue before us tonight. It is a matter with respect to a property that Heidi owns individually. As a result, town council advised me to file with town administration the circumstances relative to this on a form 19B3, which I've done with town administration. And he says that has authorized me to be able to present the material to you after having given you full disclosure of my interest in the fact that I have no financial or other vested interest in this transaction. With respect to the transaction, this matter was reviewed in May by the Real Estate Assessment Committee, and the circumstances are fairly straightforward. The parcel in question was a small parcel that was acquired by the yard sale program. The critical factor that was reviewed by the assessment committee was the fact that the property in question was subdividable without this particular parcel because it was more than 2 times the amount of ground cover necessary in order to create a subdividable lot. As part of the yard sale program, there was a provision in any of the deeds that were done with respect to the yard sale program that provided that unless you took it out, you weren't allowed to, in fact, subdivide a lot if, in fact, this created the ability to subdivide a lot. So the issue here is whether or not this was created the ability to subdivide the lot, and the answer is no. So as a result, the Real Estate Assessment Committee unanimously made a recommendation and sent the material to Town Council, and Vicky Marsh has reviewed and revised the documentation relative to the modification of the subdivision restriction, which is in the packet for you. And so it is a recommendation of the Real Estate Assessment Committee that the board move forward to agree to the modification of the subdivision restriction as included in your packet. And Vicky's here to answer any questions, as are Heidi Drew and her lawyer, David Buckley.
Questions or comments from the board? Matt?
How did you know? I didn't even have my hand up.
Because you turned your mic off.
Oh, no. Yeah, no, I think this is fine. I think this is appropriate. The thing for the history for the board to remember is that condition that was put in there after a couple kind of less fortunate, where some things were subdivided, undersized lots were created. There was some shenanigans that went on early on that this condition was taking away, as long as we pay careful attention. So we should continue to be careful. The goal of this isn't to create more building, especially out in the country and in these sensitive areas. The goal is to so I think we have to make sure that that's in there and not be encouraging it through this program. But this does not do that, so I support it.
And to Matt's point, one of the roles that the Real Estate Assessment Committee does have and does with respect to each recommendation is part of the recommendation is an indication with respect to whether or not the activity results in any ability to, in fact, create further subdivision. So it's one of the obligations that we have and one of the conditions that are put forward whenever anything is brought forward to the select board.
Thank you, Ken. Vicki?
So I just wanted to add that the way that we revised this restriction also was not just a blanket right to be able to subdivide the lot, but to create no more than 2 buildable lots if they choose to subdivide it. So it's not as if they're going to have this right, Heidi doesn't have this right to be able to just subdivide into, very small lots. She has to comply with the zoning requirements out there. So I just want to make sure that you all understand that as well. Okay.
Thank you. I think that this is consistent with other things that have come before us when they were already subdividable, where we did allow them to keep that right. So
it is consistent with the practice that we've had in a few other instances where homeowners have come to us and asked us to revise the restriction, and you've done so. So I think that policy, can continue, as long as we monitor it.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor by roll call: Melissa Murphy?
Aye.
Jason Bridges?
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella?
Aye.
Matt Fee?
Aye.
Don Holgate, aye. That carries unanimously. Next up, request for approval and execution of quitclaim deeds for Mayflower Circle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In your packet are 2 deeds with respect to 3 parcels that are the completion of the original MOU with respect to the disposition of the property to Richmond. Erica has put the map on to show you which parcels they are. The reason that this is coming up now, as opposed to at the time when this was done, is that this has been buried in the land court. And Tucker earlier identified Vicky as a superhero. I'm going to call her a superheroine because, in fact, she was able to manage to finally get this out of land court and be able to satisfy our obligations with respect to this in terms of moving forward. So it's really pretty straightforward. I don't think there are any issues with it, but Vicky's here to answer any questions if anybody has with respect to the completion of an obligation that occurs out of the original arrangement with the Richmond group.
We could take these 2 related items together, if that's okay, A and B. Are there questions, Matt?
Move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor by roll call vote, Melissa Murphy,
Aye.
Jason Bridges,
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella,
Aye.
Matt Fee,
Aye.
John Holgate, aye. That carries unanimously.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have public hearings. Consider taking of portions of North Road, Sconset roadway acquisition plan, request to continue to July 21st. So can I just have a motion to continue this to July 21st?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor by roll call, Melissa Murphy,
Aye.
Jason Bridges,
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella,
Aye.
Matt Fee,
Aye.
John Holgate, aye. That carries unanimously. We'll hear that again on the 21st. Next, we have a public hearing to consider a utility petition for National Grid. This is for 87 Eel Point Road. I'll open the public hearing. Is there somebody here from National Grid?
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. Tim Lyford, National Grid Electric, 100 East Ashland Street, Brockton, Massachusetts. Would you like me to go over this first petition?
Yes, please.
Sure. So for this first one, National Grid is petitioning to install approximately 10 feet of 2 3-inch ducts. And this is from existing pole 39 onto the property of 87 Eel Point Road. And this is for the new service to 87 Eel Point.
Are there any questions? This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on this matter? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Is there a motion?
Move approval.
Is there a second? All those in favor by roll call, Melissa Murphy,
Aye.
Jason Bridges,
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella,
Aye.
Matt Fee,
Aye.
John Holgate, aye. That carries unanimously. Next up, this is a National Grid utility.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Before you move on, can you please just, in your motions for these utility petitions, make them dependent on the conditions listed in the departmental comments, please?
Yes, it's just this one had no comments. That's actually why I didn't ask for it. But noted. So next up is 36 Low Beach Road. Tim, did you want to make any comments on this? I'm opening the public hearing.
So for this next one, National Grid is petitioning to install approximately 60 feet of 2 3-inch ducts. And that's from existing transformer onto the property of 36 Low Beach Road. And this is for new service to 36 Low Beach.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on this? I'm not seeing any hands. This one does have a couple of conditions, if that could be included in the motion. I'm going to close the public hearing.
Yep.
Matt,
So moved, following the conditions in the packet.
is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor by roll call, Melissa Murphy,
Aye.
Jason Bridges,
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella,
Aye.
Matt Fee,
Aye.
Don Holgate, aye. That carries unanimously. Next up, we have a public hearing for National Grid for 23 Prospect Street. I'm going to open the public hearing. Tim Lyford.
For this next one, National Grid is petitioning to install one new handhole at the base of existing pole 3 on Mill Street, and also to install approximately 25 feet of 2 3-inch ducts across Mill Street onto the property of 23 Prospect, and this is for new service to 23 Prospect.
Matt?
Yeah, I have a question, Tim. Are these on sidewalks or areas where people are walking?
So unfortunately, I wasn't the engineer for this specific job. I was actually trying to see myself on Google Maps earlier what the existing conditions were for this pole. For this handhole. If my memory serves me correctly, I believe for 23 Prospect, this handhole is going to be in a sidewalk area. I'm pretty sure.
Right. Yeah. So the two I was worried about here were Pine and Mill, and if they are in sidewalks, making sure that they're flush and that they're maintained. You know, we've got some around that are real trip hazards and are in not great locations. So, you know, if they can make sure they locate it, so it's, you know, if they can locate it off the main sidewalk, that's better. If they can make sure.
I don't think this has a sidewalk.
Okay, well, that's my comment, just in general.
Yeah.
Because of the way it is in some areas. If these aren't, then that's great. But I'd like to make that a condition of the next two, you know, as we go through it.
Yeah, it might be an issue on the other one, but not on this one. We do have a public hand raised, Robert McAleer.
Hi, Madam Chair. It's Bob McAleer. Thank you for your time. I enclosed a packet for that service going into Prospect. The manhole is actually, I don't know if it's on my property or not on my property, but the screening to the back of my property was compromised. So I sent Erica Mooney and Don, Madam Chair, sorry, pictures of it. And before they go forward, I would just like that screening put back in place. It's pretty self-evident in the pictures that I sent.
Tim, do you think that that National Grid or the property owner could restore where the bushes were removed?
Yeah, for these jobs, we usually try to restore them to existing or better condition. I can certainly speak to the engineer and the contractors that did the work tomorrow and see about getting that restored. Certainly, I'll be on island tomorrow, so I can take a look at it myself as well.
Okay, maybe we can add that to the conditions if it's not clear. Are there any other comments? Then I will close the public hearing. We go to a vote. Is there a motion?
Move approval with the condition to restore the screening if necessary, or, you know, restore the screening and if necessary, make sure anything's flush.
And any other conditions noted by the department.
Yes.
Is there a second? All those in favor by roll call, Melissa Murphy.
Aye.
Jason Bridges.
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella.
Aye.
Matt Fee.
Aye.
Don Holgate, aye. That carries unanimously. Next up, we have a National Grid petition for 23 Pine Street. Open the public hearing. Tim?
For this next petition, National Grid is petitioning to relocate an existing handhole approximately 10 feet. And this is in the front of the property of 23 Pine Street. And I believe this is due to the handhole being in the middle of a driveway at this location.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on this matter? I'm not seeing any hands raised. I know that Matt's going to want the same condition about it being flush with the sidewalk. And there I believe there were a couple of other conditions on this one. Are there any questions?
So moved with those conditions.
I'll close the public hearing and then go ahead and make the motion. Go ahead, Matt, make the motion.
So moved with the conditions you just cited.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor by roll call, Melissa Murphy,
Aye.
Jason Bridges,
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella,
Aye.
Matt Fee,
Aye.
Don Holgate, aye. That carries unanimously. Next up, we have a National Grid petition for 59 South Shore Road. I'll open the public hearing. Tim Lyford.
For this last petition, National Grid is petitioning to install approximately 80 feet of 2 3-inch ducts from existing transformer across South Shore Road onto the property of 59 South Shore. And this is for new service to 59 South Shore.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this matter? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands raised. Are there, oh, Christy?
Thank you, Chair. I was just wondering, with the sewer department's comments, does David Gray have any concerns about this moving forward, or will it be watched by the sewer department?
I don't think David's on anymore.
I don't think David's on, but it is very close to the treatment plant, I believe. And I can assure you he will keep an eye on it.
Thank you.
Okay, if there are no other comments, I'll close the public hearing. We can go to a motion that encompasses the conditions.
So moved with the conditions in the packet.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor by roll call, Melissa Murphy,
Aye.
Jason Bridges,
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella,
Aye.
Matt Fee,
Aye.
Don Holgate, aye. That carries unanimously. That is the end of National Grid. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you very much.
Next up, we have a public hearing to consider an application for a new mobile food unit for the Surf. This is located at 4 Western and 166 Surfside. Abigail Shaw, manager. Matt?
Before you go, I'm going to abstain from the next two because they're potentially competitors.
Okay, so you're going to recuse.
Recuse, sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Competitors, yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. I'm going to open the public hearing. Amy Baxter.
Okay, great. Thank you, Madam Chair. As you said, this is a mobile food unit application for the Surf located at Surfside Beach, which is a town concession. I'll start this off with the portion of the concession contract that relates to this. So as they are the concessionaire for Surfside Beach, per their agreement with the town of Nantucket operating the concession stand as a Surf, per their obligations, concessionaire's obligations, they may be permitted to augment the concession facility services with a mobile food unit with the prior written permission of the town and appropriate licenses. The concessionaire at this location has exclusive licensing over a mobile food unit at Surfside. This is a location, the previous concessionaire also did have a mobile food unit for this location. In your packet is a photo of the applicant's trailer mobile unit, which will be placed in the parking area next to the lawn and tables that were placed next to the concession. It's the exact same length as a previous concessionaire, so should be no problem in that space. What I would ask with this application is to recognize and approve the similar conditions that were placed on the previous mobile unit at this location, which was in 2017 to 2019. It was limited to the following. There's no service after 8 p.m. or sunset. Once that occurs earlier than 8 p.m. later in the summer. Only one vehicle is approved for the Surfside location. No additional mobile units are allowed to service the area. If the vehicle licensed to the concessionaire is unable to provide service, another licensed MFU may replace it as needed with prior written approval from licensing and town administration. and as we do with most mobile food units, if they try to service another public area or wish to use this to service the public in any other way, they would require additional approvals. So at this time, this license is for this location only. They have been approved and reviewed by the health department, but final inspections will be required before they can operate that. And I will open up to any questions.
Christy?
Thank you. Amy, how many parking spots will this be taking up?
It's just the one. And I think I put a overhead view where we have, if you're looking at the ocean and at the little park area that we put in a couple of years ago there, it's just to the left of that space. Here we see the MFU is here. When this occurred the first time, some handicap spaces were moved and in front of that space too, so that we didn't lose any spaces for them. So it's just that area right there. And again, we did this for a few years prior with the concessionaire prior to this one.
This is a public hearing if anyone from the public wishes to speak. Not seeing any hands. If there aren't any other board questions, I'll close the public hearing. And we can go to vote? Jason?
Move approval.
With all of the conditions Amy laid out.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor by roll call. Melissa Murphy?
Aye.
Jason Bridges?
Aye.
Amy, Christy Ferrantella? I'm going through the line. Don Holgate, aye. That carries unanimously. Next up, we have a public hearing for the to consider a mobile food unit for the Green Market. Jenny Bentz, manager. Amy?
Thank you. And yes, this mobile food unit is for the Green Market. They will be, in addition to their brick and mortar location, they will have this mobile unit, and it will be parked in overnight storage at the 5 West Creek Road location. And currently, the plan is they're using it as a catering vehicle and for private events. We do not have a selected location as far as serving the public or any public location at this time. As I said previously, any type of service to the public requires property owner approval and then reporting it back to licensing to include on the license or to bring before the board if public property is required. So they have been approved again by the health department. This happens to be the vehicle that used to be at Surfside Beach. So I think there's a photo of that as well. And so we're all connected here. And they've repurposed it for their use as well. So have gotten full approval for that as well. And again, no objections to the application. And I think we're going to show, yep, the taco truck for those that can see that there. So again, that was a truck that used to be at Surfside that they are now using for their private events. And again, I believe that's it. What I didn't say in the last one, because it was Surfside, just a review. Again, final inspections are required by health and fire before they can commence service, which I think they have had. And that there's no mobile food unit service allowed in the downtown historic district, and other locations would need property owner approval. And I believe that's it. If there's any questions?
Christy? Then Jason?
Thank you.
Christy?
I saw their application is looking for it to
Sorry,
come
am
out.
I glitching?
Can you hear me?
Christy? Yeah, I think I'm glitching. Go ahead.
So their application has Nantucket, Nobadir, and Dionis, and I was wondering if that was just something they're still seeking approval, or has that already been approved?
That has not been approved. Those were requests in the beginning that they requested. So in the past, we considered at Nantucket and Diona's, but with the parking situation, erosion, other issues, there is no way. And plus Nantucket being close to another licensed establishment would not be allowed. And then Nobadir, the airport commission, had voted to not allow mobile food units at this time. Again, I believe due to parking and erosion. So that they were requested and they were not approved for those reasons.
Jason?
That was my question as well. Thanks, Christy.
Okay. This is a public hearing. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this? I'm not seeing any hands. If there's no other board questions or comments, I'll close the public hearing and we can go to a vote. Is there a motion based on the conditions?
Motion
to approve. Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Second. No, it's okay. Second.
Okay, all those in favor by roll call. Melissa Murphy?
Aye.
Jason Bridges?
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella?
Aye.
Don Holgate, aye. That carries unanimously. And that ends our public hearing portion of the agenda. We have moved up the committee appointments to make sure that we get through all of that tonight. So we will move to item number 1 under select boards reports and comments. Erica Mooney was just going to go over the process of how we're going to do the voting this evening because we normally do the secret ballot vote and with it being online. Erica?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just a reminder, we're going to follow the same procedure that we did last year with our annual appointments, which we also did remotely. So normally each board member would write their choices down on a piece of paper. Since we are not in person, every board member will email me their votes at the time that we are reviewing that specific appointment. And then what I need to do then is I will read your votes. You will verbally confirm that that is your vote, and then we will tally the votes from there. And I did want to know, I'm not sure if everybody saw it, but there were 2 letters that were added to the packet this morning. One was from Maureen Phillips, and then one was from applicant Linda Williams.
Thank you. Just a couple of other notes is I think that we can take all of the uncontested as one motion and then go through and the votes where it requires a decision between applicants. And I'd also like to move forward if we can right after this with re-advertising all of the vacant positions and all of the positions where applications came in late should just be moved over to that next round. And we should do that as soon as possible to not have any vacancies, hopefully. So, Christy.
I just wanted to know, I won't be voting on the airport commission or the scholarship committee. Thanks.
Thank you.
I will not be voting on coastal resiliency.
Okay. Jason?
I won't be voting on Board of Health.
Matt?
Well, I was gonna, you guys just messed me up. I was gonna make a blanket motion, but now I'm too confused.
Okay, so hold on. We've just got to pull out, well, Board of Health is contested, so that's not an issue. Scholarship committee is contested, so that, and airport is contested. So
yeah, I think it's just the coastal resiliency
crack that we'll have. Yes, coastal resiliency advisory meeting that we'll have to take as a separate motion. So if you could do a blanket on all of the others.
I'll make a blanket motion to approve all the others other than coastal resiliency that are non-contested.
Thank you. Second. All those in favor by roll call. Melissa Murphy.
Aye.
Jason Bridges.
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella.
Aye.
Matt Fee.
Aye.
Don Holgate, aye. That carries unanimously. Now Melissa will be recusing from coastal resiliency, but would someone like to make a motion on that uncontested?
Make a motion to appoint Joanna Roach.
Is there a second? All those in favor by roll call. Jason Bridges.
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella.
Aye.
Matt Fee.
Aye.
Don Holgate, aye. That carries unanimously. Okay, bear with me as now I go through. We will start with Airport Commission in terms of our ballot vote. So if everyone could send their two choices to Erica now.
Is Matt voting on this? I don't have a motion from him.
Oh, I texted you.
No,
Should I
no,
email?
it has to be by
You've got
email.
to email Matt. We're keeping a
All right.
record.
Okay, I'll do it. Hang on. All right, it's
Okay, so I'm going to read everybody's votes and please just confirm that that was your vote. Jason Bridges voted for Phil Marks and Andrea Planzer.
That's correct.
Melissa Murphy voted for Philip Marks and Andrea Planzer.
Yes.
Christy is recusing. The chair voted for Andrea Planzer and Philip Marks.
Correct.
And Miss Matt Fee voted for Andrea Planzer and Philip Marks.
yes.
Okay, so those will be our two new board members.
Thank you. Congratulations, and thank you to the other applicant for putting your name forth. Board of Health, we have two applicants for one seat. If everyone could please, except for Jason who's recusing, send in their votes now.
Okay, so Melissa Murphy voted for Jim Cooper.
Yes.
Christy Farentella, Jim Cooper.
Yes.
Matt Fee, Ann Smith. Can you just confirm that, Matt? Sorry.
Yes.
Chair Holgate, Jim Cooper.
That's correct.
So Jim Cooper will be our Board of Health appointee.
Congratulations, Jim, and thank you to the other applicant for putting your name forth. We really appreciate all of the committee interest this year.
Next, we have Concom. Voting for two.
Uncontested, yes. 2 seats, 7 applicants. Please send in your votes now.
Jason Bridges is voting for Ian Golding and Marcia Brown.
That's correct.
Melissa Murphy is voting for Ian Golding and Linda Williams.
Correct.
Christy Ferrantella is voting for Ian Golding and Linda Williams.
Correct.
Matt Fee is voting for Ian Golding and Joe Plandowski.
Yes.
And Chair Holgate is voting for Ian Golding and Linda Williams. So Ian Golding received 5 votes and Linda Williams received 3 votes. So those are 2 new members.
Congratulations, and thank you very much for all of the other people who applied. Sorry,
so
bear with me. I'm trying to get to
TRC was appointed. Council for Human Services is done. I have a question on the Council for Aging. We had 4 seats and 4 applicants. Can I assume that the 3 incumbents will have their 3-year terms renewed and that Nancy Swain will be in the filling the vacancy?
Okay. Yes.
Yes. FinCom is done. Carrie's done. Brooke is done.
I think Scholarship Committee is the next contested. There's 4 seats and 5 applicants.
Yes.
Okay, I know that Christie's recusing from this, but could everyone else send in their votes?
Erica, I'm sorry. I didn't give you enough names.
Yeah,
Thank
you.
you.
Give me 2 more, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so we have Matt Fee gave his votes to Lee Saperstein, Leslie Forbes, Maggie Detmer, and Rebecca Woodley Oliver.
Yes.
Jason Bridges voted for Lee Saperstein, Leslie Forbes, Maggie Detmer, and Rebecca Woodley Oliver.
That's correct.
Melissa Murphy voted for Leslie Forbes, Maggie Detmer, Rebecca Oliver, and Katie Manchester.
Yes, thank you, Erica.
And Chair Holgate, Lee Saperstein, Leslie Forbes, Maggie Detmer, and Rebecca Woodley Oliver.
Yes.
So we've got Lee, Leslie, Margaret, and Rebecca. And I again assume the 3 incumbents will fill the full 3-year seats and that Rebecca will do the vacancy.
That sounds great to me. Congratulations. Thank you to everyone who puts their name forth and volunteers for all of these committees. It is so appreciated. And we do have a number of vacancies. So please take a look and put your name forth if you're willing to serve. Next up, speaking of a vacancy, we have an appointment to fill the school committee vacancy.
I'm sorry, can I go back just 1 second? Was
Yes.
Nantucket Historical Commission not contested?
That's correct. Linda Williams drew her name in favor of putting in for the alternate position. So
Got
she
it.
resubmitted her application under the alternate seat.
Okay, and so that went in under that initial vote of the uncontested stuff.
I think maybe you should vote on that since it was a change from her original application.
Well, my understanding is that the three she withdrew her name. So the three incumbents were appointed and it remains a vacancy, but she's
not
in for the next round.
Okay.
And I made the motion. That was my intent. If we have to revote it, we can revote it. But that
No,
was
that's fine.
No, I mean, in the just for some clarity, in the past, we probably would have just filled the alternate seat, and we probably would have filled the seats of the incumbents that applied late that are uncontested. But with our new policy, we're going to re-advertise and redo this in a couple of weeks.
Great. For the school committee vote, I did put an AIS in your packet. I don't know if there's any questions about the procedure. We do have a recommendation from the school committee.
Matt, question?
Yeah, move approval of Rocky. I want to see him go back to school.
Second.
Okay, we'll just go to vote. All those in favor by roll call: Melissa Murphy.
Aye.
Jason Bridges.
Aye.
Christy Ferrantella.
Aye.
Matt Fee.
Aye.
Don Holgate, aye. That carries unanimously. Thank you, Rocky, and thank you from everyone from the school for being here tonight.
I didn't know if they had anything to add.
Did you want to say anything?
Or the school committee chair, I'm not sure.
Thank you for the opportunity. No, just thank you for your vote. We're very excited to have Mr. Fox on board with us. And it was a unanimous vote from the school committee. So we're excited to work with him. Thank you for your support.
Thank you. Now we will go backwards to the town manager's report.
Thank you. So first off, I just wanted to do a bit of a review of the 2021 annual town meeting and annual town election. I usually give you a kind of a spreadsheet in your packet, which outlines each article, what the vote was on the final motion that went before the voters, and what the follow-up is. So I won't go through every single one, but there's some standard follow-up to a lot of these. There's a pretty standard follow-up for almost all of the financial articles involving things like finance, setting up accounts, confirming spending limits with departments, some meetings with departments about various things. For capital projects, there's no expenditures permitted without advance sign off by finance and town admin. There's procurement requirements and things of that nature for those types of projects. All of the bylaw amendments will be processed through the town clerk's office and sent to the Attorney General for approval. Then once approved or modified, or however the Attorney General rules on them, depending on how the Attorney General rules on them, the updates will go to the general code publishers, and the town code will then be updated. The same thing goes for the zoning bylaws. They are handled a tiny bit differently through planning. And so that is all underway right now. The home rule petitions will get sent to our legislative representatives, and the real estate items will be prioritized and handled through the real estate specialist. So I wanted to bring your attention to a couple of things. And what I put in your packet, there are some citizen articles that I didn't quite catch the motion on at town meeting. So I'm just waiting to get the final from the town clerk. However, primarily they were non-binding. So they're more advisory than anything else. And if they were things like For example, there was Article 34 was a citizen article relating to solid waste. That wasn't a recommended article through the Finance Committee, but there was a new motion made by the citizen to recommend pursuing incineration at the landfill. That was what was voted. So that recommendation will be incorporated into the options being explored by administrative long-term solid waste work group, and eventually it will make its way through that process and come back to the board for your review and comment. So there's a few citizen articles that I need to figure those out once I've got the actual motions. Article 90, I wanted to make a note of. We had a cabinet meeting yesterday and we reviewed this, the town meeting follow-up. And as we know, Article 90 was not adopted. However, prior to town meeting, the board and the FinCom did have some discussion about the potential of setting up a work group, and there was a lot of public comment on that. And at cabinet, the planning director noted that the planning board, I believe it is having a meeting on July 12th, and they're going to be doing their own town meeting follow-up discussion. And we talked about maybe the select board should join in on the part of the planning board meeting where Article 90 will come up, because Article 90 will come up at their meeting, and you all could together discuss the possibility of a work group. So if you are all interested in that since they're meeting anyway, it just might be easier for you all to join on to that meeting, unless you think we should try to set up them coming to your meeting or you just having a discussion about it. But the recommendation was you all try to get onto their meeting and for this discussion. But I wanted to know what you thought about that.
Can you shoot out a reminder for us to go to that? Christy?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it's a good idea for us to go to the planning board meeting and discuss it together and then see what the outcome might be from there before deciding anything tonight.
Okay, great. Next, I just wanted to mention that, I don't know, maybe amazingly, all of the ballot questions passed. And at the town admin level, at this point, I need to sit down with some of the various departments that are going to be involved in these and figure out for the capital projects in particular, what the priority is going to be for them with procurement and getting them in the queue and the timing and the borrowing. And there are a lot of groundwork efforts that need to be done here. It's quite possible that Nobody or Farm Fieldhouse will be, sorry, Matt, but will be one of the projects that we try to get at first, since there was such a discussion about that. And we're just going to have to work in the other ones. We can't do them all at the same time because we don't have the resources to do that, but that's sort of how that will work. And I mean, I'm happy to answer questions from you guys, but the only other thing I wanted to point out was that a potential discussion point for the board, either now or at a later time, or maybe even next year. And perhaps this was a fault on my part at town meeting. I noticed that there were a number of comments made by town meeting attendees that were not entirely accurate. They weren't factual, and no one got up and corrected them. And several times I thought, should I get up and correct them? But I didn't really want to jump up too many times and sound, I don't know, too correcting of things. So I didn't really do that. I did a follow-up with one citizen independently about some comments that were made, but I think normally I do a little list. I do a list of all the articles and who potentially would speak on them. And I just neglected to do that this year. So maybe I just need to get better about doing that next year, send it to you all. And we sort of, have a kind of a, I don't know, a liaison for in the event that we hear something that isn't being said correctly and that it gets corrected, because my concern is that people then leave town meeting thinking that whatever the comment was is correct because it wasn't corrected, and it wasn't. So I just wanted to make note of that.
Yeah, I mean, I would also note things were a little bit difficult because of holdover of articles. There were some dates in one article that hadn't been recommended, but then it ended up getting approved, that that was never corrected. I mean, I think that the Attorney General will handle that, but we should have made a motion for an amendment.
Yes,
so we've got to be a little bit more.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up, because thank you for mentioning that, because there was another article, Article 82, that was passed as is. However, I had pointed this out a couple of times during the leading up to town meeting and the review process, but it's not. It's an amendment to a bylaw. However, the bylaw used for these amendments isn't quite. It's minor, but it's not quite accurate. There's new language and removed language that doesn't track with the existing bylaw. So that might possibly be, I don't know if that can be handled through kind of an administrative correction with the Attorney General, or it doesn't change the meaning of anything really. It's not a substantive change, but you have to be very careful with changes like that, because it wasn't approved like that at town meeting. So that's just something I'll have to talk with town council about. And the date issue with the leaf blower article is another issue that we'll have to just work out. I mean, if the date is already passed, how could it possibly be effective then?
Matt?
Yeah, just on the field house, I would hope that we will at least look at redesigning or rebidding it to have it a reasonable price. I think, just because people voted, I just think would be a mistake to spend money that needlessly if we can find a way to get it to a reasonable amount. So I hope that's the discussion.
Well, we would really need the board to have a discussion and a vote on that, because the current bids are only good for another maybe 10 days at the most. I don't know if Brian or Rob is on who could address that, but the plan would be to bring you a contract for the low bid soon. So if the board does not want to do that or wants to rebid or redesign, then we'll need a vote on that.
I mean, I understand that the price is very high, but we laid that out to town meeting and to the voters, and they chose to do this both at town meeting and at the ballot. So I don't think that we would be doing our job if we went the other direction. But that's my take on it. Jason?
We'll talk about it when we do the vote. I think it's the other way around on. I think that we're elected to be here and make those hard decisions even when they're politically unpopular, and to protect the taxpayers. So I look at it slightly different. I want the field house as bad as anyone. I'm partly responsible for the Delta fields being there and the building being there. And it's a passion of mine, but I can't, I just hope that we can find a way to bring it in at numbers that make sense.
Jason?
Thank you, Madam Chair. One scenario I'm concerned about is if we go to rebid it and it comes up higher. I mean, it might be a small chance that could happen, but if it did, then what do? Then we kind of went against town meeting vote in a good manner, right? To be this, like you're saying, Matt. But if it comes back higher, significantly higher, then and I think we're in trouble. So I'm okay with as is going forward with it.
Matt?
Then we need to fix our bidding process. If we can't pull out more bids, better bids, we need to, maybe re-examine that. So
I'm afraid re-examining the bidding process would probably require a change in state law, and I don't think we would get too far with that, but perhaps Brian can speak to it.
No, that's not what I'm talking. I'm not talking about changing state law. I'm saying make sure that we are are putting it in front of everybody that might give us a decent bid, and go further than just listing, find out, are there ways to get people, get more interest? I think we're being held up right now. I think people know that everyone's busy out here, and I think they know they can put a crazy number on it. And if they make $1 million, $1.5 million, then okay, I'll stop what I'm doing. I'll do it. And I think that I don't think it's a public bidding. I think we're being sort of taken advantage of. And I don't like that feeling.
I don't like the feeling either of having to pay more than we should, but we agreed to take it to town meeting by a majority vote. We took it to town meeting. We told them that the price was much higher and they voted for it. And my take is they voted for it because they want it done. And if we delay the process, people are going to be even angrier. And I am worried about the same thing Jason is, that it could even come in higher. Brian, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I mean, one of the issues that we face with these very large scale projects like this is that it requires what's known as DCAM certification. And there is no contractor on the island that has pursued DCAM certification to be able to do projects of this magnitude. So we're faced with the majority of contractors for these types of projects all coming from off island. And I know that we were certainly shocked when we opened it with the pricing, but that is something that we face. And I'm not sure, Matt, how we get around that hurdle, because we have tried. We've reached out to vendors and other contractors because we face it with other trades as well. And honestly, I don't know that there's an extreme amount of interest for them to go through the process to get the certification necessary to do the projects when there's what would appear to be more than enough work for them in other avenues other than the municipal facilities. So it is something that we struggle with.
If there aren't any other board comments in regard to town meeting follow-up, Tobias Glidden has his hand raised. Tobias, did you have a question or a comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did have I guess maybe a comment in regards to an overview of town meeting. I think it would be very helpful in the future for the board to set a policy about the numbering of articles at least a month in advance. Libby talked earlier about, correcting the reason for why we do things at town meeting. And I think if the FinCom is going to have a motion to adjust the orders of the articles, they shouldn't be because the FinCom's motion shouldn't be because they're concerned about getting the most votes there. The concern should be about the financial impact of the articles. And so I think the board should take that very seriously. There was a number of voters who were disenfranchised by the fact that articles were moved around at the last minute. I have no problem. I don't think anybody has a problem with the select board making decisions about when articles should take place, but I think you owe it to the voters to do it in a timely manner. So that's my comment.
Thank you for that input. We of course cannot control a motion made by anyone to reorder articles, but that was made by the chair of the Finance Committee, and it was with quite a bit of discussion over a number of weeks in public forums. But that's still good feedback. Should we talk about 2022?
Sure. So there are some dates in your packet. I think even though we're not even into 2022 yet, it is best to get a date out there sooner rather than later. So I've come up with some various dates. And, for a while there, the board was focusing on Saturdays. And I'm not sure if you still are or not, but so what I've run these dates by the moderator, town council, the Navissimos, the school, and the town clerk. And everybody is good with any of these at this point. So there's the potential for a Saturday in April 2nd, or the Monday. And then either way, the annual town election could be Tuesday, April 12th. The finance director and I have talked about May. We rather like the idea of May. I don't know how you all feel about it, just because having a little more time is greatly to our benefit, especially because we will need a little bit more time going forward with the so-called BERDA change, which is a charter change that won't be effective by next year's annual town meeting, but it most likely will pass the required ballot vote in 2022. So we need to start getting prepared to have the warrant mailed out to the voters about a week earlier. But really for preparation purposes, it's more like 2 weeks earlier. So we have a couple of proposals in May, Monday, May 2nd or Saturday, May 7th. And with either of those dates, potentially we could have the election on Tuesday, May 10th, which is something I do need sort of endorsement by the town clerk on it, because it's a bit close to do the town meeting on May 7th and the election on May 10th, but it may not be too much of an issue with maybe with the setup already there. Possibly it could stay in place. I'm not totally sure. Or it could be a little later, the following week, May 17th. And there are some holidays and school vacation dates that I put in here because those do impact when we have town meeting and the election.
Jason, and then Christy, and then we have a couple of public hands raised as well.
At first glance, I like May 2nd or May 7th on Saturday with a 10th or 17th for elections. I think it seems to fit in pretty well. Gives everybody more time. I think a lot of times when we have it April 1st, April 2nd, not everybody is kind of back to the island yet, voters and seasonal residents. So, and it helps out town administration with the new upcoming charter change. So I'm leaning towards that, but I'm interested to hear what everybody else has to say.
Christy?
Thank you. I think after this year, I'm leaning away from a Saturday town meeting. I think we realized how difficult it is for working families to attend. I know that it was June versus May, but I'm even thinking that Saturday in May is going to be more difficult. And I agree with Libby with moving it towards May would give town administration more time to prepare. So I would vote for a Monday or Tuesday in May over a Saturday.
Melissa?
Thanks, Son. I agree with you 1,000%, Christy. I think that if we're going to move it closer towards May, there's just too many people who live here year round, who work in the trades, who have to be there for a full day. There is no perfect solution to getting increased participation at town meeting. It's an imperfect process, and no matter what day we choose, there are going to be segments of the population that have challenges. But I really feel strongly that Saturdays after May 1st, too many of our working families are occupied 6 days a week with meeting their work challenges. So I would be more in favor, if we need to go to May, towards going back to evening town meeting.
Can I just throw one thing out there? What do you all think about we've historically started at 6 p.m. on when we do an evening town meeting. What do you think about starting at 4? Because my one concern is with the electronic voting, it gets more expensive and more difficult to schedule if we can't finish on the same day. 4 o'clock, maybe even 5 o'clock would help. It feels like we always spend a whole hour getting organized, and there's only so late that we can go. Christy?
Yeah, I was going to say the first hour tends to be technical amendments and reviewing things. So I think starting at 4 would give us time to get those things done early, and then if families and others had to show up at 5, they would be there in time for the articles.
Melissa, then Jason, and then I want to go to the public.
Thanks, Jason. I agree with that. I think that's a great suggestion. And I also think that, I just forgot what I thought. So go ahead, Jason. I'm sure I'll remember after you'll probably say what I was thinking.
I think we need the budget for two nights even I know this town meeting, this one we just had, was a double town meeting, so it was a long day. But I just don't see them getting shorter. Electronic voting will help, but there's always going to be issues that we need to try not to call a vote so fast and listen to people. So I think we need to budget 2 meetings and not try to shoot through it in one night. So just thinking about, is it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday nights? How does that play versus a full day on Saturday? I agree with Christy and Melissa that it's problematic on a Saturday, and it's different problems on multiple nights. So that's it.
Thank you. Joanna Roach.
Hi, thank you. I just want to say, with regard to the order of the articles that happened at the town meeting, first, I want to say thank you for just giving some feedback and sharing your perspective on what went well and what didn't. I think that's always super helpful. But the finance committee, in terms of how we were looking at renumbering the articles, it wasn't a motivation of anything other than the financial impact on what would get voted and what the impact it would have, particularly on articles, I believe it was 8 and 10. And I think that, in terms of notice about how these things happen, this was the first time we had done it this way. And we don't know how the votes are going to turn out at the town meeting, as you guys don't either. And so to take the broader view and look at, if we had it go in order, we would have had to go back to Articles 8 and 10 and sort of jigger them in terms of it making sense for the rest of the meeting. So that's why the articles were reordered in that way. And I think that to anticipate that couldn't happen again is probably not practical. It could happen that way again, because we don't know what's going to happen in terms of how the public is going to vote on the particular articles and how that might impact the big picture. So I just think it's important for people to know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna. Brooke Moore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have to tell you that I have grave concerns about moving town meeting to May. I think what we saw in June was a disenfranchisement of our workforce that is already really busily at work in the month of May in Nantucket, and then an April town meeting holds space for people to attend that even May would be problematic. I do understand the logistical issues for town administration, and I'm torn in that way. But I just want to make a point that May is, people are working 7 days a week, even in May. Memorial Day weekend is only a few weeks from these dates we're talking about. So I just wanted to hold a place for that. Thank you.
Mary Longacre.
Thank you, Dawn. A couple of points on the town meeting. I would agree with Brooke that a Saturday in May is a work day. I don't know if there's a possibility to sort of split the difference and go mid-April instead of very early in April. But for the 4 p.m. start, I appreciate that the hope to get done in one night. I think you would lose whatever time you gain, because you'd have to have a dinner break in there. I don't think you could ask people to go from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. or 11 to finish, and not have a chance to have something to eat. Also, for people to call an article, they have to be there at the beginning. So people who really wanted to speak about a particular article would have to show up early. So there are a couple of disadvantages to a 4 p.m. start. I think 5 p.m. could work. Just a couple of thoughts in that direction. Also, it was my understanding that you used to alternate between an evening town meeting and a Saturday town meeting, on the premise that disenfranchising everybody a little bit was better than disenfranchising some people completely. I'm not a fan of the all-day Saturday, but I did stick it out at the last one, and I could do that. I prefer the evening ones. I'm a night owl, but I think it's a good plan to try to serve the best interest of the most people most of the time by alternating between the two schemes. Those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Matt, did you want to say something? You turned your
Yeah,
mic on.
no, I'm sort of, I'm with I'd like to do a couple evenings, with a 5 o'clock start. I really hadn't thought about the dates, at that point, the people, the working people that I know are working just as hard in April as they are in May. They're working hard right now. They could work 24 hours a day and not get everything done with what's going on here. So I think the thing that I really sort of struggle with is when people vote their self-interest and walk out. And that always bugs me. It wasn't, it happened on 90. It's happened prior with pay raises. People pack the hall, move the question, call it, out they go. And I sort of thought, well, maybe if you pulled it out of a hat, but I don't think that will do it, because they might just happen to be in the front third of the meeting and then they all walk out anyway. The more I thought about it, the only way I think that we could, discourage that. Right now, we have a policy that you have to call. If you want to reconsider an article, you have to call that article before the next one is called. I'm not sure if that's, if that seems like it may be a town meeting policy. If we had the right to call it, anyone that voted in the affirmative in the case that won had the right to call it at any time before the close of the meeting, I think people would stick around. We might actually have attendance for town meetings. So maybe there's another way to get at that. It makes me think that the system's a little broken, and maybe we'd be better with representative town meeting when I see the influence that, one large block of people can have. So, I think that's something that we should be really considering and thinking about going forward, is how do we lessen that? Because a block of people could have a serious impact on the island for, the next 20 or 30 years.
Well, I am concerned about, there's a bunch of dates in April, Easter, school vacation, that's putting a wrench in kind of the whole middle of the month. And I'm a little bit concerned with going as early as April 2nd or 4th with the parameters of everything that we need to get ready. I'm also thinking that there is a likelihood that we may have a fall town meeting as well. And I'm kind of leaning towards May 2nd. I'm hoping that it's early enough in May that it's workable for people. And I'm kind of thinking 5 o'clock, but I'm just going to throw that out there as my preference based on everything I've heard is maybe the best compromise. I saw 1 thumbs up, 2 thumbs ups. Jason, okay. Matt, how does that sound to you? Okay, Libby? Shall we do you want a motion?
That's fine by me. Yeah, I think a consensus is okay at this point, because I do want to firm up the time and make sure that is something that the school can accommodate. And so why don't I come back to you on July 7th and you could vote it then with it firmed up.
Yeah, I mean, you need to confirm town council, and I think you've already checked into that, and the voting technology and we're going to get the same wonderful audio people again.
Yeah, so let me check on those things. Sound, e-voting, and also the wording of the agenda item. People might say, well, I didn't know you were going to vote on it because it was a review of options. So probably best if we put it on for July 7th, and I can firm up those few things.
Yeah, and I know that Sarah and Nancy aren't here, so
Sarah
to make sure that they're on board.
Yep, let me do that too and reconfirm with everybody.
Okay,
great. Thank you all very much. Okay, so next on the town manager report is the monthly town management activities. And again, I won't go through every single one of these, but just sort of the highlighted items are kind of the things that we've been most focused on recently. We have a number of plans, reports, and studies underway. The strategic plan, we are hoping for a workshop check-in with you all sometime in July or August. Our consultants for the Nantucket water quality improvement plan, really the idea of extending sewer to Nantucket is actively underway. Consultants are working on updates to the route and the costs. As soon as that is more progressed, we will probably have them come in and review those things with you. The facilities master plan, we will be rescheduling that workshop that we talked about. The contract with Weston and Sampson for professional assistance, I noted that would be on an upcoming select board agenda, which was on your agenda for tonight, and I will get the scope out to you all. That's for the concessions. Baxter Road long-term planning, you all do have a workshop meeting with the Coastal Resiliency Advisory Committee next Tuesday at 5:30, 3:30? What time is that at?
3:30.
3:30, thank you. With Arcadis Consulting, and that is part of the scope for this entire effort. And they will also be giving the board an update on that project on July 14th. We have a PFAS update scheduled for your July 7th meeting, and there's a lot of activity underway right now with that. Bunch of meetings, of course. I've transitioned my COVID team into a summer issues team, and we talked today about a number of issues, including 4th of July, beaches, outdoor dining, and some other things. So as you, events as well, as you all, as we're scheduling things like outdoor dining and events with you, we are trying to work up into some input and feedback for you. Solid waste long-term planning continues on a weekly meeting basis. The American Rescue Plan funding, we will need to, and Brian can speak on this a little bit more if there's any questions, but the board will need to accept our allocation formally at a meeting, and that will be coming up probably on July 7th. Brian and I are continuing to work on some proposed expenditures. You don't necessarily need that for your acceptance, but we do have some things we want to get focused on to use that funding for. A lot of projects underway. The downtown sidewalk project is nearly complete. The sewer project we heard tonight is hopefully kind of like winding down. The old fire station reuse for offices to move there is getting very close, and they hopefully will be in there well before the end of summer. Hopefully, well, I don't even want to say it, but definitely before the end of summer, hopefully. Island Home, I'm working on follow-up with an internal group to determine what next steps might be. And a couple of other things here. Police reform bill. The police chief did prepare an analysis of this and what's going to be required of the town and what is already underway with the town. And I think that is coming to you on, got that. I'm trying to get that on for July 7th, but July 7th is filling up. So it'll either be the 7th or the 14th, most likely. The NCA Forum, the Nantucket Community Association Annual Forum, as you all know, is Tuesday, July 13th at 9:30. It will be virtual. I sent you all some topics the other day, proposed topics. If you want to change any of that, please let me know so I can tell the NCA that. Construction has commenced on Waite Drive. I enrolled myself in an ambassador for inclusion program through Suffolk University, and that is concluding tomorrow with a workshop forum in the afternoon. There was a dedication to Moby, the trash structure out at Surfside Beach a couple weeks ago. We're beginning our fiscal 23. We're not even started with fiscal 22 yet, but we're beginning our fiscal 23 budget and capital projects preparations. And as you know, we're starting to plan for the 2022 annual town meeting. Some various achievements. I have hopefully will become an ICMA, International City Managers Association credentialed manager in July, and along with a number of other managers throughout the country and other countries also. Lots of, well, several staff members are continuing to obtain their MCPPO, that's Mass Certified Public Purchasing Official designations. There's a lot required in order to maintain your certification for that. So they're all working on that. A lot of things in the queue. And with respect to some personnel items, as you know, we have hired hopefully a permanent island home administrator. Transportation planner is underway. Hiring for deputy fire chief is also underway, and we are advertising for the deputy DPW director for facilities. Happy to answer any questions.
Jason?
Yeah. Libby, how is the transportation planner? Is that just still out there looking, or is it getting, is there any more details than that?
It's still out there looking, but I think that Andrew mentioned yesterday at the cabinet meeting that they have a candidate that they're working to bring to the island. I hope I'm saying that right. Pretty sure that's what he said.
Thanks.
Bill Greeter actually has his hand up with a question or a comment. Bill?
Hi, thank you, Don. Through you to Libby, I heard mention that the looking at extending the sewer design and cost towards Nantucket, and I believe that was waiting for the results of the water quality report that we've been waiting for some time from the consultant. And so the meeting to discuss all that with folks out here obviously was put off. But is it my understanding now that, you know, that meeting is going to take place so we know it's up before they get too far along into this design process?
Bill, I think you may have missed it, but I think I mentioned on one of the prior town manager monthly activity reports, that report is out and it is posted on the town website.
No, I understand that, but
Okay.
previously you had talked about and in communication with us about there was going to be a meeting in discussion with folks out here, and that was put off until this report came out. So what I'm asking now is, are we in fact going to have that discussion or that meeting?
I think the plan is, at least on my end, is to have that discussion once we have some additional information back from the consultants as to the route and the cost, which are going to be different than what was previously talked about. So we want to be able to have a more complete discussion, I think, with Nantucket reps.
Okay.
It's definitely going to happen, though. Yes.
Okay. We just, I would hate us to go down the path the last time where the Board of Health's plans and I mean, they've started to adjust their septic regs, you know, in anticipation in this. And so it'd be nice if we're basically all on somewhat the same page so we don't get bogged down again.
I hear you. Thank you.
Matt?
It might be a question for Bill, but one of the concerns from Nantucket has always been the impact on zoning and the impact on the neighborhood if this goes through prior to the zoning changes. And I'm wondering if those have all been undertaken. And the other thing, I know that coastal resiliency is going to be considered in this, you know, but I think we have to be very careful about sort of encouraging more, you know, more and expanding in an area that is going to be increasingly at risk. So, you know, those are just a couple of comments that I hope that that's all taken into consideration.
Thank you, Matt, for bringing that up. There is a zoning analysis, I guess I would call it, or a build out analysis based on current zoning as to what additional units might be able to occur with sewer. I don't have that right in front of me, but if I'm recalling correctly from the planning office, it was minimal. But I'll try to dig that out and send it around.
But it isn't just not I'm not trying to be argumentative, but it's not just a unit count. It's an impact. If you know, if $750,000 cottages become $2.5–3 million buildings, and we put a lot more investment into that area, then, you know, and we're putting all that investment into areas that are going to be expanding wetlands and potentially underwater in, in the next 30 or 50 years. Is that a smart decision? Those are the, that's the policy and big picture that we want to make sure that we are grappling with prior. So.
Are there any other questions or comments? Let's move on to discussion regarding in-person select board meetings. So, Melissa?
Thanks so much, Dawn. Could maybe through you, could we get an update, Erica, on what the possibilities of hybrid meetings and what that might look like? Because I think, I don't want to speak for all the members, but I think that's a very interesting concept because of the increased participation we've been able to realize through COVID. I'd love to hear what that might look like. Thank you.
So when you are talking about hybrid, are you talking about the select board members all being in person, or even some of the select board members being remote? And are you talking about allowing the public into the meeting space or keeping them fully remote? Because it's all very different.
Okay. Well, out of that menu of options, I'm
not presenting that as options. I'm just, they're different scenarios.
Suggesting was that, I think every board member's intention would be to be there in person. But it is nice to be able to have the opportunity to remote participate if life takes you away and you can still carve out time to attend a meeting as a board member. But really, I'm thinking mostly about remote participation for presenters who may be coming from off island, and then community members. I think, the way Zoom has given people the opportunity to participate from home and do other things during a 3 to 4 hour meeting, but chime in on what's important to them has really been nice. And I think we've heard from more members of the public. So that's what I'm thinking about. I know there's several other variables within that, but if maybe we want to focus on public participation to begin with, that might be helpful.
Okay, so we have done an initial test with NCTV in the community room. We would like to organize another one, potentially with a couple of select board members. The way that we would have to set it up is everyone would need to have their laptop with them, and I would have Zoom on my laptop in the community room, and I would then project it. My computer's connected to the projector. I would project it onto the big screen so everyone who's in the meeting room can see who is speaking. And not having done it yet, there might be some trial and error. The HDC has done it a couple of times so far because they have been meeting the last 2 Tuesdays in the community room, and it seems as though they've had some success with that. I've gotten some feedback from people who say that it did go well. And I know there are certain meetings where, yeah, so it went well. So again, it's been a little hectic this last week trying to connect with NCTV. I was out a few days, but it is at the top of our list to make sure that we can make it run as smoothly as possible, but not having done it yet, we'll see how it all goes. My biggest concern is the sound more than anything. Being able to really hear clearly people who are remoting in. So I do want to test that further. And I know that, like I said, the HDC has been working with NCTV because they have had those 2 in-house meetings, but I haven't been part of those. So I'm just not sure 100% of the logistics.
Melissa?
Just a quick follow-up on that. Thank you. Thank you, Erica. I'd be happy to be a test subject if you want a guinea pig in the room. And I appreciate all your effort into trying to make this work. Thanks.
Thanks.
Christy?
Thank you. I was just going to mention that NPDC met in person this past Monday. So that was my first in-person meeting in 14 or 16 months. The one thing is my husband always listens into meetings, and he said that the Zoom quality has been a lot better. And at the NPDC meeting, he couldn't hear all the participants or comments that were being made. So I think that's something that we're just going to have to think about, no matter whether we're in person or remote or hybrid. It's just, how do we make sure that everybody can be heard and clearly through whatever portal that we're speaking through.
Yeah, sorry, I just want to respond to that. You know, the community room AV system was set up obviously way pre-COVID. So we haven't really had many opportunities to figure out how to improve those yet. So it's going to be a work in progress.
Thank you. Jason?
Christy, I'm assuming you're talking about people who were in the community room. People on Zoom couldn't hear them. That microphone didn't connect in. Is that what you meant?
No, so we actually weren't on Zoom at all. This was only an in-person meeting. But the members of the NPDC, when speaking, you couldn't always pick up on the mics or what they were saying. And so it was through the radio, 89.5, that you could listen to it.
Matt?
Maybe we need the audio guys who did town meeting. They might knock this out in an hour.
If we could have them move here. Libby, did you have a comment?
I was just going to mention that we've said this many, many times, but the microphones in that room, you have to speak very close to it. You cannot sit even a few inches away and be heard. That's how they're set up.
And with NPEDC having a much larger board, they're probably sharing mics, and so they're not bringing them in front of them. And that's something that maybe needs to be a reminder from staff, is that if you're a board member speaking in that arena, you really do have to grab a mic to speak.
Jason?
Thanks, Madam Chair. I think the hybrid model is the way to go. It keeps the participation up. People can talk from home, and we'll probably have better conversation and dialogue in person. Humans usually do. I would hesitate to start it, and I know we could just say, hey, let's start it and we'll work out the bugs, but I think select board it's pretty important. So I think we need to really, if it's the end of July or middle of July or beginning of August, we go back in. I would want to make sure that everything kind of is intact. We might have to buy equipment. There might have to be some cost here. I don't know where that would come from. I don't even know if we even have any of those solutions yet, but I think I would also want to be there with you, Melissa, just to kind of see how it goes and feel it and help kind of think through it, make sure it's as inclusive as this is here in Zoom, also in person.
Erica?
I just wanted to know, I did reach out to a couple of Cape Towns that were doing hybrid setups, and specifically Chatham, I think, they did like a full studio upgrade to facilitate hybrid meetings, and it was not a small expense. And they only have one meeting space similar to us that can accommodate that. So, you know, as much as we want to make sure this is the best model, do we have funding? Do we have, you know, how do we get people in to do the work? And, you know, there's just a lot of unknowns so far.
Melissa?
Thanks, I guess the question then to us is, if this hybrid model remains a work in progress, are we committed to returning in person and meetings as pre-COVID usual, while keeping this as an opportunity that we're working towards. And I do think that returning to in-person meetings is important. I think it sets an important precedent for the rest of the community in terms of in-person meeting is safe, and it's how we need to conduct our business. So while I want to work towards a hybrid model, I am committed to working and meeting in person. And although the governor's extension goes through April of 2022, I think that we should return to in-person meetings. And I don't know that that's necessarily a directive, but I would like to continue to work on a hybrid model. And I do think that, and I'm hopeful and will be advocating at the state level for this to be a new normal, that this hybrid meeting opportunity becomes legislation that we can depend on. So those upgrades and working out the kinks of that system may not be a temporary solution. It may be an investment into increased public participation for the future. So those are some of my thoughts on that.
I have some thoughts, but I've got two hands raised, so let me go to them first. Bill Greeter.
Hi, Don. Actually, that hand is left up when I tried to answer Matt's question. So
We'll reconvene on that Nantucket sewer discussion.
Okay.
Thanks, Bill.
Are you going to reconvene?
We'll reconvene later at a different meeting on that. Mary Longacre.
Thank you. So a couple of thoughts. First of all, the Steamship Authority has been doing hybrid meetings since last spring. So they may have some tips on what technology or what arrangements are working for them. They would have their staff in their main building in Falmouth, and the board members from the different towns would be on Zoom. So it's a little bit different arrangement, but I think the technology is pretty similar. So perhaps you can get some tips from them. As someone who's the chair of a 9-member board, which is, also squeezing in around the table at the Four Fairgrounds facility. We've had issues with the mics all along, and I'd hope that there's money or money can be found to replace the microphones, even without the potential use for remote meetings. There's feedback issues. You do really have to be close to them. I find it amazing that our laptops work better as microphones than actual microphones do. So hopefully that technology can be upgraded. And I think we're all out of practice, those of us who are used to, working in that room. We've just had almost 18 months of, sitting at home in a relaxed setting. And I think we're all going to need several reminders to get up close to the mic in order to be properly recorded. I know at the NPNEDC meeting where I was also there, people were not anywhere near the mic. They were 4 feet away, leaning back in their chair. Or as Christy said, it's a large board. Some of the members don't even sit at the table. So I think we definitely want to take a look at that situation, not just for the capability for remote meetings, but just for the standard capability of being able to record a meeting where people can be heard so that people watching later can get the full information from that meeting. Thank you.
Jason.
Thanks, Don. What's the requirements for participants who the public could come in? Do they have to wear masks? Would select board members have to wear masks? What is that? What's our approach on that right now?
Erica.
Masks are optional in public buildings. So if you would like to wear one, you would wear one. And if you don't, you don't.
Christy.
I was just going to say it wasn't required at NPDC to have a mask on.
There's very few places where I'm seeing masks at this stage. Melissa?
I would think that we could make the recommendation or suggestion that if participants or visitors to the meeting are unvaccinated, that they wear a mask. But that's only a request, not a requirement.
So a couple of thoughts. I think that I'd really love to continue to see the type of participation that we've had throughout the pandemic. I mean, I think part of that has been just the actual fact that we were in a pandemic, and that people were looking to us on a weekly basis to find out kind of where we were at and what kind of measures we were taking as a community. And that's probably starting to go away, or already has. But I think, you know, one of the really important things for us to be able to do is to have different consultants and so forth be able to remote in rather than having to travel here. Gosh, especially in the summer, where it's so hard to find accommodation and it's so expensive. That more limited, I think, will be easier to make work. However, I'd love to see a broader way to make it work. I think ideally board members are all at the table, unless there's really more extenuating circumstances from time to time. But it becomes a lot more challenging if only a couple of us are at the table. And I'm picturing multiple screens being needed, especially with whoever's chairing the meeting. If they're trying to look at Zoom and potential hands raised on Zoom. And like tonight at the beginning of the meeting, I missed a whole nother screen full of people that I should have reintroduced at the beginning because I didn't realize that there were that many people on. So those are just some thoughts about how to manage it. I think that somebody else will have to have their eyes on if we're letting people come in and ask questions or make comments through Zoom without it sort of being the recognized person that's coming in to present something, like a consultant or town council or something like that. So I think that we're not going to have technology tomorrow. I think that we should just go for it and go back to in person when a bunch of these other boards are already doing it. But that's my opinion. And I'm fine if we need to do one more meeting this way, but I think that we should move towards going to in person and working out the kinks for whatever we can manage in terms of remote participation. Matt?
Yeah, I agree, Don. I think we should go back. I think we should be, but I think if we push off the hybrid too long, it probably won't happen. You know, I think we want to keep it as a priority. And if you remember, when we had those huge long lists, people had to sign up ahead of time. So maybe it's some combination of, you know, the consultants already being signed in, and people who want to speak that are not available signing in, so it isn't as unwieldy. So I think there are ways to handle it, and if we have to upgrade the microphones, et cetera, we need to find a way to do that. So, you know, I'm on board with pretty much everything everyone's saying.
Christy, then Erica.
Thank you. I think one of the other big pieces of a remote/hybrid model is the participation from our second homeowners. And that's something that we've been able to receive over this past winter and last winter that we haven't been able to have previously. I think second homeowners contribute so much to our community and haven't been able to participate in our form of government. So I guess I want to go back as soon as possible, but I'm a little hesitant to not do it without the capability of having a hybrid model. So I think waiting another meeting or two and seeing if we can, you know, have some sort of whatever the HTC is doing or some form of a hybrid model. I think that if we go back the way NPDC did and not have access to a hybrid model and then try to introduce it later, it's confusing for the public of how select boards the meetings are being run if we keep changing it up every week. So I think we have to kind of decide on a method and then we can fix it as we go. But I think if we go too far one way, then back to another, it's going to be confusing for the public.
Erica?
I wasn't suggesting that we can't go forward with a hybrid model right now. I'm just saying that there might be a couple of hiccups during the meeting as we work things out. I am in full agreement with the chair about, we move forward with it and work out the kinks. We've got 2 weeks now until our next meeting, and I would hope that we would be able to get into the community room within that time and do a practice session or two and have things under control. I haven't been in that building in a really long time, and so I need to make sure that I'm comfortable too before I get you all in there, but I'm committed to being able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you could call a couple of us in at a time and do some practice runs over the next couple of weeks, so that we can figure it out. And luckily, more people are on island right now that can attend our meetings in person, and maybe we'll have it more figured out when people will have more need to remote in the winter. But yeah, I was never thinking that we would be going forward with not having any remote access, just that it's going to be a little bumpy. Gary Beller.
Yes, you can hear me now?
Yes.
As Christy was saying, she was talking about our constituents as the chair of the advisory committee for non-voting taxpayers. We were really pleased that we were able to participate as much as we have been able to do. So because of the ability to participate on a virtual basis. And I hope that, by the way, I'm on a couple of several boards which had meetings last week. 2 different organizations I'm on, nonprofit organizations, and both of them had hybrid meetings, and they both worked fine. I had one on Tuesday and I had one on Thursday, and there is a few little additions you need to make, but in today's world, I think that the technicians, the audio people, can figure out without an unbelievable amount of expense. I think it would be some modest additional expense to try to make it reasonable until you get it to the perfect solution. But I think the longer that we're able to keep the virtual sessions alive, you'll be getting more and more participation. And based on what we saw from the town meeting and the election, it's hard to get people around Nantucket to show up for things. And it's a lot easier if they can at least virtually participate. So I encourage you to continue working on having hybrid meetings in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. I think we are in total agreement. So I guess the real decision point is picking a definitive date to go back. Is it the 7th? Is it the 14th?
Madam Chair, I'm fine with shooting for the 14th. And if Erica and town admin and NCTV 18 and we all figure out that, well, you know what, the 7th is fine, and everybody feels comfortable that it will run as smooth as possible, I think the 7th is good, but I think 14th seems a little more realistic.
Christy?
Are we comfortable with moving to 5:30 on the 14th?
I am.
I am.
Perfect, thanks.
So, Madam Chair, Erica, you had your hand up when I said the 14th.
Oh, I was just going to say, because the first floor community room is in use during the days right now through the 4th of July for training, we won't really have access during the days. So waiting until the 14th would give us that week of July 6th to really hammer out some practice sessions in there during the day when it might be easier for people to jump in.
I'm okay with that. And I like the 5:30 start time.
Okay. Do we have just consensus? Okay.
Madam Chair, remind me of, we have select board on the 7th, 14th, and 28th? Or do we go all the way through July?
21st,
Of the 28th,
no meeting on the 28th.
7, 14, and 21. Okay. Sorry, last up, we have committee reports.
I think you have a few hands up, John.
Sorry, Melissa.
Sure, and Christy.
I don't know who was first.
Okay, Christy and Matt had theirs up first. I'll defer to Christy and Matt, and then I'll go last. Fine.
Christy.
Thanks, Melissa, just a quick update. As I mentioned, NPDC met in person this past Monday, but I just wanted to welcome Mary Longacre. She was voted in as one of our at-large members. So that was the main task that we took care of this week. That was my only update, and welcome, Mary.
Thanks, Christy. Matt?
Yeah, Coastal Resiliency has an open house this Thursday at 5:30, the 24th, if I've got that right. If I don't, correct me again. That's number one. Number two, I like the idea, I didn't comment on it earlier, the planning board, meeting with the planning board. I think something like Nantucket 2030, where the NPDC is working on a master plan now. And I think we should be thinking about a sustainable vision for this island. There's some things going on now. We see the importance of housing now. There's no employees, and that's a COVID issue, but I don't think it's getting any better. And so I think that we should be, instead of being stuck with a vision of the next year or two, I think if we could widen the vision a little bit, kind of like the comprehensive plan did, and really tackle some of those things, that would be part of what, part of what the concerns out of Article 90 were. So I'm glad that we would meet with them. I think that's great. The other thing is, I wish we had heard from Bill Greeter. If he had his hand up, I would like to have had my question answered, but that's.
I can go to him. He's still on.
Oh, well, I would love just to hear, because I am wondering what is the consensus in Nantucket.
Okay.
That would be great. Thank you, Don.
Bill, let's move to that quickly now.
Yeah, thank you, Don. You to Matt, we are on the ramifications of without looking at what happens ahead of time with sewer. I'm just with a stupid phone. And so we actually have given a grant to the Land Council to do a build-out analysis of Nantucket, both without sewer and then with sewer, because we're concerned if we lose the Board of Health 10,000 square foot per bedroom restriction. So we're nervous about that, and we're looking for consensus from all the folks that live out here to provide input, so it doesn't turn into a brouhaha as sewer coming is inevitable at some point, and it's not a question of trying to stop sewer. Once again, we're back to, we want to make sure the plan is thought out and that the area is protected, and that we can keep the same vista to whatever degree we can. And so that's why we funded this study to be done, and it will be shared with the town. They're going to be part of it, and it's a multi-phase look at it. And so that's what our concerns are.
Thank you, Bill. That's really helpful. Back to committee reports. Melissa had something?
Yeah, I just wanted to share that Saturday night I was able to attend the Nantucket Equity Advocate celebration at the African American Meeting House. It was really lovely, and Kamal McCarthy spoke as our DEI representative, and he did a fabulous job. It was a great event. I think this is an inaugural event, and I think participation or the capacity was somewhat limited due to some COVID restrictions at the meeting house, but it's a great group that are planning future events already. So I hope the community can come out and support them. It was really enlightening to hear some of the history of Juneteenth, and also Neville Richin gave a great performance as Absalom Boston. So it was a real treat, and a thanks to Kamal for representing the town so well.
Thank you, Melissa. That's so great to hear. Anybody else for committee reports? Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor by roll call. Jason Bridges.
Aye.
Matt Fee.
Aye.
Melissa Murphy. Christy Ferrantella.
Aye.
Don Holgate, aye. Carries unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice rest of your evening.
I was on mute. I was going to say everybody needed to come in and sign stuff.
Oh yeah.
Good night.
Hey, don't forget. So yeah, I can be in on Monday. This time.
Good night. Thanks.
Right, Eric, I gotta show you that.
Pretty nice. Pretty nice. Enjoy.
Be back soon. Bye.
reason with it.